And he said to the woman, "Indeed, has God said, 'You shall not eat from any tree of the garden'?" First of all, just to note, I ask questions when I study the Bible. My first question is, why did he go to Eve and not Adam? Why did he go to Eve and not Adam? Well, I think maybe the best answer is 1 Peter 3:7, that the woman, by God's design, from the physical standpoint, from the emotional structure standpoint, is the weaker vessel. God has poured into the lives of women sensitivities, compassions, a certain level of tenderness. She is not, by created design, the warrior, the fighter, the defender, the protector. She is the one to be defended, to be protected. She is the one who needs to be covered and cared for. That's why in Ephesians 5, husbands are to love their wives, and they're to be the guardians of their wives' purity and the guardians of their wives' character, and they are to nourish them and to cherish them. At the same time, they are to be their Savior, as Christ is the Savior and provider of His church. In 1 Timothy 2, the Apostle Paul says, I do not permit a woman in the church to take leadership, to teach, but rather she is to learn. And the New Testament even says she's to go home if she has questions and ask her husband. The husband is the leader. The husband is the spiritual guardian and the spiritual protector of this woman, because she is wired to be tender. She is wired to be compliant. She is wired to be compassionate, because that is such a critical matter in the rearing of children and in offsetting the strength of her husband. The balance is wonderful. But when a woman is taken out from under that protection, there is a level of vulnerability there. That is why in the Bible, it is normal, it is the standard approach. There are some exceptions by God's design, but it is normal for women to have a husband. That is the design of God, because a woman was designed by God to be a helper to a man, to be covered, protected, sheltered, cared for by a man, and to take that tender side and use it in the lives of children as well as in the life of her husband. And where a woman does not have a husband, she is still to be the special care of a father who offers her that oversight and that care that she cannot receive from a husband. And we're reminded by the Apostle Paul in his letter to Timothy that when a young woman loses her husband and becomes a widow, she should marry, because she needs that covering. She needs that protection. And that is also why wherever you have divorce with biblical grounds, you have the allowance for remarriage, because God knows that women are designed not to go through the world in an unprotected fashion, particularly those women who need to be married, who have been designed by God to be married. They need the covering and the protection of a husband. Now, this situation is exactly what Satan would have wanted: an uncovered, unprotected, sensitive Eve. Now, this is what the Apostle Paul refers to in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. I'm afraid lest as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds should be led astray from the simplicity and purity of devotion to Christ. What happened was Eve was led astray. She wandered off. She was found, I'm sure, by Satan in an unprotected condition, and that's exactly what he wanted. Now, he may well have succeeded with Adam, but he believed he had a better opportunity to launch this thing with Eve.